Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to start talking about the information in Chapter 4, which is on conversion factors. And I do have to warn you, conversion factors is a major topic that you need to be familiar with for chemistry because it deals with how we do conversion problems. What you've got to remember is, and it starts off in this chapter in section 4.1, talking about what conversion factors are. And so you just need to know that conversion factors are fractions. Remember, the top of your fraction is called the numerator. The bottom of your fraction is called the denominator. But when you set up a conversion factor, what's true about that conversion factor is that when you divide the top by the bottom, the answer always comes out to be 1, because whatever the numerator and the denominator are, they are equal to one another. And so anytime you have an equality statement like 1 year equals 365.25 days, those can be written as a conversion factor. And so again, all I would do is where the equal sign is, that's where I put the division bar. And then I can flip that however I need to based off of whatever conversion it is they're asking me to do. Now, what you have to remember with dimensional analysis, and doing like single step conversions as you see in section 4.2 is that if I know what unit I'm given in the problem, I know that in order for it to cancel out, because what I'm given is going to be the numerator of a fraction, what the conversion factor that I need to cancel it out will have the same unit as my given in the denominator. And so your book does an example where you're converting from days to years. It gives you in the example 925 days, and it wants to know how many years that is. So when you set the problem up, remember, you're going to start with the 9.25 days. And again, with dimensional analysis or unit conversion, your goal is to get the units to cancel out. And since this days is in the numerator, in order for it to cancel out, I've also got to have days in the denominator to get it to cancel out. And if it's a single step conversion, that means that you know the conversion factor that takes you from days, and in this case, we're going to years. All right, and so we know that 1 year is 365.25 or 365 days. And so then to do the math, to do this single step conversion, I would multiply. Just like I'm multiplying fractions, I do top times top. Well, 9.25 times 1 gives me 9.25, and then I'm going to divide that answer by the 365. And again, you notice the units cancel out. The only unit I'm left with is the years, and so my answer must have the unit years. Okay, so when you do a single step conversion, that's exactly what it is you're trying to do. And so the answer for that would be 2.53 years. So when you do a single step conversion, you have to know the direct conversion between whatever two units you're given. However, in section 4.3, it points out that you won't always know that direct conversion. Especially if they give you a problem where you're going from a metric unit that has a prefix to another metric unit that has a prefix. Okay, you won't necessarily know what that direct conversion is, and so you may need to do a multi-step problem. Or if you're going from one unit to another, like if I give you something in milliseconds and I ask you to give me that whatever it was in minutes, again, you know a conversion that goes from milliseconds to seconds, and then from seconds to minutes, but you don't know a conversion that goes directly from milliseconds to minutes. So again, you would set the problem up just like we've done this single step problem. And the problem I'm actually looking at is on page 68. It is the try it problem that they're giving you. They want to know how many milliseconds there is in 0.25 minutes. So when I set that problem up, I've got 0.25 minutes. I want to know how many milliseconds that is. Again, my job is to get the units to cancel out. Since I have minutes here as my unit, I need minutes on the bottom. And I know how to go from minutes to seconds. But the problem didn't ask me to stop at seconds. It asked me to go to milliseconds. So I have to do that conversion as well. So because this seconds is on the top and I need to get that to cancel, I need to have a seconds on the bottom, and then I need to have milliseconds on the top. Now, I always first put in my units and then go back and place my numbers. And so we know to go from minutes to seconds, we know that 1 minute equals 60 seconds. And then to go from seconds to milliseconds, we know that 1 second equals 1,000 milliseconds. All right, and so then again, we would just do the math. I've got to multiply the 0.25 times 60 times 1,000 to find that answer. And when I do, I find that that answer with correct sig figs works out to be 1.5 times 10 to the 4th milliseconds. And again, it's milliseconds because all of the other units canceled out. So if you don't set up your problem so that the units cancel out, there's no way you can get to the correct units that you're trying to solve for. So please be careful with that. Again, if you're given two metric prefixes that you're trying to convert between, you need your first conversion factor to take you from the first metric prefix to the base unit. So like if you're going from milligrams to grams, and then you need your second conversion factor to take you from the base unit to the other unit that you're trying to get to. And so there's lots of practice on that in section 4.3. And then in section 4.4, that's where you do conversions using the English system and the metric system. So because all of those prefixes that we don't necessarily use in the United States, you have to know how to do those conversions. There are some conversion factors that you need to learn, like you should know that 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. You should also know that 12 inches equals a foot, 3 feet equals a yard. You should know that 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. Those are just conversion factors that you need to know. And again, you can flip it however you need to so that the units cancel out when you set up your problem. And so your book gives you some practice with that as well. Then your book moves on in section 4.5 to talk about ratio unit conversions. And so what that means is sometimes you'll have problems where your unit for your number is not just one simple unit. It's actually made up as a ratio of units. And so if we look at an example problem, let's say I gave you a problem where I ask you to convert between miles per hour and kilometers per second. Let's say I gave you a problem where I ask you to convert between miles per hour, and again, that is a ratio unit. And I'm asking you to go to kilometers per second. All right. And so as a ratio unit, let's say I gave you, let's say you're driving 35 miles per hour. when you set up your dimensional analysis problem, remember where the word per is, that's where your division bar goes. So when I set that up, that is 35 miles divided by 1 hour. All right, and then I've got to do a conversion to get that from 2 kilometers per second. And so if we do our conversion, what we want to do is we've got to get miles to be converted to kilometers, and we've got to get hours to be converted to seconds. And so you can look up a conversion factor that goes from miles to kilometers, and that would take care of the first part of your problem. But then we also had the issue of going from hours to seconds. Now, because the hours is located on the bottom, to get that unit to cancel out, I need to place it on the top. And I know a conversion that takes me from hours to minutes, but minutes isn't what I need to stop at. I've got to keep going. And so I need minutes on the top, and I need seconds on the bottom. And so then you just plug in your numbers to solve, and you will notice that your units cancel out properly, so that the units that you're left with for your answer are kilometers on the top and seconds on the bottom, which is what you want to do for a unit conversion problem. Now, you'll have a few of these problems in the chapter. It will not be too many, but please, please, please make sure that you practice that. Your review quiz for this chapter starts on page 77, and then the answers to the review quiz on page 77 follow up on page 80. Please reach out if you're having any issues and need any assistance with the problems that you see there. Call me, visit me during virtual office hours, whatever you need to do, send me an email, just to make sure that you've got everything down that you need to understand for this chapter. I hope this brief introduction can kind of help you as you're setting up your problems for your homework and your review quiz. Please make sure you're keeping up with your due dates and that you don't have any questions. If you do, reach out. I hope you have a good rest of your day.